Well, welcome to the 700 Club. A right hook from Marco, and then a left hook from Laura. Two back-to-back storm systems are on track to hit the Gulf Coast within 48 hours. And one of them is forecast to make landfall as a major hurricane. Nature's fury is also raging in California, with multiple infernos engulfing more than 1 million acres. George Thomas says that.
I was told to get some stuff, and that's what we're doing.
Residents and visitors in New Orleans and several other parishes are either leaving town or hunkering down.
We don't know what to expect, I mean, is it going to be a catastrophe, or is it going to be just a lot of rain?
Louisiana's governor warning residents to prepare for a 1-2 punch as the two storm systems are set to make rare back-to-back landfalls on the Gulf Coast within 48 hours of one another.
We're going to get basically a right hook from Marco and then a left hook from Laura.
Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Puerto Rico already feeling the effects from the weather systems. And while folks along the Louisiana Gulf Coast prepare, residents in Northern California are bracing for more fire outbreaks. The National Weather Service warning of dangerous lightning and thunderstorms expected to hit this week.
Each and every county is now on high alert due to the storm that's coming in.
Dramatic satellite imagery from a few evenings ago shows the scope of the fires sweeping the northern part of the state. With hundreds of wildfires raging and more than 1 million acres already on fire, the California National Guard and U.S. military deploying personnel to help exhausted firefighters contain the blazes. More than 14,000 firefighters are right now on the fire lines.
A lot of adrenaline and a lot of passion, a lot of love for the job, knowing that if you sit down and you rest, someone might not have a house.
President Trump has declared the wildfires in California a major disaster. He's also issued emergency declarations in Louisiana ahead of Tropical Storm Marco, set to hit this afternoon, and Laura, which is expected to be a hurricane when it strikes overnight early Thursday morning. George Thomas, CBN News.
You have to ask yourself, what is going on? It's almost like nature has turned against this great land. Joe Bastardi is chief forecaster with Weather Bell Analytics, and he's with us now to talk about these unprecedented storms. Joe, has there any time like this where two storms have hit the Gulf almost simultaneously?
Well, we had 1933, and you wouldn't have known about this because we didn't have the communication we had. Two major hurricanes hit within 24 hours, one on the Florida Treasure Coast, the other in South Padre Island. And then the one that hit Florida was into the Gulf of Mexico a couple of days later, or actually a day later, and hit again. So it hit twice within 36 hours, and the other major hurricane had hit in between them. Now, look, so you wouldn't know about that unless you're into the weather and know what happened before. Marco is weakening dramatically. It's barely going to be a tropical storm. Laura is a big problem, and I am getting more concerned about the upper Texas Gulf Coast back to Houston and Galveston with this thing. And you could see Laura coming from quite a bit away. As far as the California wildfires, did you know in the 1920s, wildfires in the West burned 5 times more land than they're burning now? So, Ecclesiastes 1:9, there's nothing new under the sun. What has happened today is we see all these things now. Makes the news. I mean, look what hurricanes and tropical storms do. They get me on CBN with you, Pastor. But the fact of the matter is, when you put this in perspective, Marco and Laura, if you go back to the April 7th forecast we issued, are part of the package that we were talking about, that this is going to be a big year for the U.S. coastline. And in 2 weeks from today, we might be talking about something coming up the eastern seaboard. It's pattern recognition. But you got to go back and look before, and you have to be cognizant. That does not diminish what is happening today and the potential disasters with this and the pain, the aggravation, the frustration that we're experiencing with the wildfires now. But it's part of what has always happened, and what we have to do is continue to adapt to it, in my opinion.
Joe, that thing that hit Galveston, it was so devastating. They weren't prepared for it. Is this anything comparable to that?
Well, we're going to be prepared for it. Right? I'm very confident of the intensity of Laura, that Laura is going to be very close to a major hurricane, if not a major hurricane, when it hits. We saw Hannah trying to ramp up as it came for South Padre Island earlier in the season. The track spread, though, until this gets away from Cuba, because you see, Cuba influences what the storm's going to do, okay? So when it gets away from Cuba, then we will hone in on it. Right now, it looks like between Corpus and Lake Charles, which would put Houston getting closer and closer to the middle of that option over there, the Houston-Galveston area. Now, of course, you had Ike in 2008. Rita went into the Golden Triangle. Harvey's legendary, but Harvey hit at Aransas Pass or a little bit further north as far as its full fury was with wind. Carla in 1960 hit at Port Lavaca, and Houston had quite a storm there. Benchmark storm is 1900 in Galveston.
Yes.
And that particular storm, of course, in 1900, you couldn't see it coming, killed over 6,000 people we know about. The danger with this storm is the Galveston storm was moving west-northwest, so it didn't close in on Houston. This could be moving north-northwest. It hit at Galveston, come up just west of Houston, push all that water into the channel and what happens in Houston. So I'm very concerned about that. Certainly not a lock. I am much more confident on intensity than track, but Houston, Galveston, Port Arthur, all those play, Lake Charles, and even down to Corpus has got to be very concerned about this.
Joe, thank you so much for being with us. Joe Bastardi, and it's nice to know there's nothing new under the sun. That we've had them before, we'll have them again.
It's true. Well, we live on the East Coast area as well. So.
Well, now some good news. COVID cases are going down. Plus, there's a promising new weapon in the fight against the virus. Ephraim Graham has more on that story.
Pat, the number of new infections has dropped to its lowest level in 2 months. It comes as President Donald Trump and the Food and Drug Administration announced progress in treating the virus, declaring emergency use authorization of convalescent plasma, saying its benefits outweigh its risks. Convalescent plasma is blood from people who've survived the virus, which is then transferred into people currently fighting it. It's been used on 70,000 people since the pandemic began. Some scientists express concern the treatment has not been adequately tested. President Trump said the emergency use authorization will dramatically increase access to the treatment. COVID-19 has already had a major impact on the 2020 presidential campaign. Now there's growing concern over voting during the pandemic. CBN's David Brody posed that question to Dr. Deborah Birx, who's coordinating the federal response to the coronavirus.
From a health perspective, there will be a lot of people voting in November. And I know they've talked a lot about mail-in balloting, but what about just going to the polls? I mean, is it safe to go to the polls?
Well, I can tell you it has been safe for me to go to Starbucks and pick up my order. So if I can go into Starbucks, wait in my line, socially distanced, and...
It is safe to go to the polls.
Well, certainly I have gone into Starbucks.
Yes.
So if it's safe for me to go into Starbucks in the middle of Texas and Alabama and Mississippi that have very high case rates, then, you know, I can't say that it would be different waiting in line in the polls.
Dr. Birx also told David about the personal challenges of her job, including getting death threats and horrific text messages. The Republican National Convention kicks off tonight. The 4-night event will present America as a land of promise, opportunity, heroes, and greatness. The president is expected to speak each night. Tonight's speakers include South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana, and former ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley. On a related note, we're learning longtime Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway is leaving the administration. The pollster, strategist, and former campaign manager announced she's resigning from her post as a senior counsel to the president at the end of the month to spend more time with her family. She is still scheduled to speak at this week's convention. Pat?
Well, her husband, by the way, has been leading some kind of an effort. I don't know whether it's a campaign organization opposing President Trump. So here she is, the senior advisor in the White House, with her husband sending blogs out about how he hates the president.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know that this is accurate, but I've heard that he's leaving his post for the same reason she is, to have time with family. I mean, can you imagine being politically involved in this day and age?
I think that family stuff, everybody, well, I'm going to spend time with the family. That's about 5 minutes over the next 20 hours. I mean, no way, you know how. But anyhow, those things happen.